One of our viewers asked, how do you make selections for colors when you're doing still life paintings and portraits? Well, let's explore that idea. One thing that makes working backgrounds for still life and portrait simple is it's pretty much the same way. You make the same kinds of decisions for portraits as you do for still life. And that decision, it starts with avoiding certain kinds of backgrounds to avoid. Avoid a background that is so high in intensity or high in saturation that that's the first thing you see. A background should be that. A background. It shouldn't really be noticed, and so you don't want to make brilliant colors for a background. That just doesn't work. Remember, painting is not a piece of decoration. So how do you make decisions for colors? First of all, every successful still life or portrait painting I've ever seen had a neutral background. Now, what do we mean by neutral? Well, let's start there. So if we start here, for example, this little child, and if you were doing a portrait of this child, you would ignore whatever you're seeing here, and then look at the child's skin color and look at what the child's wearing. And so we will take a clue there. Now, if I'm taking the clue from what the child is wearing, I might begin with a green. So let's see here and show you how to come up with that. So if I begin with a green, all right, so there is a green. That's a cooler green, and so we'll just add a little warmth to it and create a warmer green. Now we see that this is closer to the green that we're seeing. Here we go. You see, that's sort of in the same range as a color to work with for the child's clothes. Now, also the child's skin color. Well, that skin color kind of falls into the orange range, and so what we might do there is we would start right over here with an orange, and now let's see. It's now that I'm holding my palette knife here, see that it has a little bit more red in it, so I add a little red to that orange, and then we will find out all skin tones are reduced in intensity. And so we have that's pretty close right there, and then to reduce that intensity let's see, let's try a little blue here, and get that intensity reduced. Put a little bit more of that. There we go, right in there, right in here, a little bit more of the red into the blue, and right in there. Now we see we're getting closer to the skin tone. So remember, the skin tones are people that have the Caucasian or a more Oriental kind of skin tones. They're going to lean you're going to find those tones in the oranges and the red oranges. People whose skin get a little bit darker, you're going to find them still in the red tones. Some of them still in the red tones, but a little more neutral. And the people whose skin is really black will have more of the cool tones. So you go there. But just for right now, let's say what you need to do is to find the colors, the local colors of the skin tone and of the clothing, and sometimes the hair color, but mainly whatever clothing the subject is wearing, or whatever is appearing in there is a part of the portrait. So there's where to start. Now, neutral. So we need to, for the background, we need to create a neutral that will be made from one of these two colors. Now I can take the green, for example, and put it over here. Now what do I know about green? How to make a neutral kind of green. I know that green and red are complements. Anytime you mix two complements together, you're going to get a neutral. So I can start there. Now I have this red here. Let's see if that will do it. So I can create a neutral, and this is a neutral. Now that neutral can be cool or warm. So this is a warm neutral. Now would that make a beginning of a good skin color? I'm going to cool it just a little bit by adding just a little bit of ultramarine blue to it. And let's see. And that makes it even. Now we've got even a more neutral. Now look, it's kind of a dark neutral. So let's add a little white to that. Just a little bit of white. Now let's see what we would do with that. All right, that feels harmonious with this color. Let's see, does it feel harmonious with this color? It means it's under the same light. So that's how you make your decision about the colors to use, which is what the question was about. Now, as far as the subject goes, you might want a light background, you might want a middle value background, you might want a dark background, or that pretty much depends upon how you want to state the thing. But whether it's light, middle value, or dark, you want to start with that neutral. So let's see how that would work now. So if we have, let's get just a little bit, get that a little bit lighter right here. Here is the neutral color, and this, there we go. That is a nice neutral. That's a nice neutral. It's kind of a greenish neutral. So you see, it would kind of echo what we see here. The other thing is that then you can vary that. You can add a little, as you're working that neutral, you can work a little bit of the orange. See, this is a little bit of the skin tone color. You can work that into it, and so it's a good idea in all the backgrounds to work into it all the colors. Start out with a neutral, and then as you work that neutral, work into it all the colors, or not all necessary, but the colors that you see in the subject itself. Now this particular combination I have right here would make a very nice background for portrait background for that child. You see how this will blend actually there into the child, and then you might have of the child's clothing, you might pull some of those areas a little bit more towards green, and some might add a little bit more of that green back in some areas, or you might want to add in other areas you might want to add a little bit more of the orange. For example, when you get it lighter, you might want to add a little bit more of the orange, say if you were working around the lighter part here. Now it might not be a bad idea also to keep in mind how the light's shining. In this particular photograph, we see that the light is hitting the stronger light on the child's face on this side, so the light's shining in this way, which means that the light would catch over here. This side would end up being lighter, and so you work those values. But the question was, what colors? How do you select the colors for backgrounds? And this is the basic principle for selecting colors. So you do the same thing as far as the still life goes. As I said before, the color that you use for a background is the principle that you use for finding the colors of the background is the same whether you're doing still life or whether you're doing portraits. So now let's just review. In this still life, in this particular still, let's look at how many colors you have. You have the greens, you have the reds, and you have oranges. There's oranges here, and it's sort of a yellowish orangey here. This particular photograph is thrown into a dark, almost black, it is black background. You know, you can throw a dark background if you want to emphasize this, but you would still want that to reflect the colors that you're using in here. Now, you could make, in this one, I prefer to make the background reflect more the colors that appear most often. For example, orange, red, and yellow appear most often in here. So I would create a neutral that's warm, made of these colors. Maybe begin with the orange and add blue to the orange, in order to get the neutral. And start there, and then as you work the background in, allow the background itself to reflect some of those colors, and even maybe a little bit of the green might reflect in the background. If you have the whole background basically neutral, then you give attention to the subject itself. I really don't like using the word background. I've said it 1,000 times in this quick tip, but I really prefer to think of background as an environment for the subject to live. So in a portrait, the background would be an environment for the portrait to live in a still life, an environment for it to live in. But keeping those backgrounds or those environments neutral, keeping them reflecting a little bit, just a hint of the colors that are in the subject themselves, then that would give you a wonderful harmonious background. So if you found this quick tip helpful, why not check out our full-length video lessons at DianeMize.com. And also, if you have something that you would have a question about, something you'd like for me to address, then drop us a comment right down here and let me know what you would like me to do a quick tip on. We'll put you on the schedule. And there's your quick tip.